morning. Hope you're all doing good today. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Kathy Bivens. I'm a new member here at the church. I recently married Doug, who is a member here, a longtime member here. And if you might not be able to tell, I am not from North Carolina originally. I grew up in a small town in northern Illinois, and I was raised by parents who did not attend church. However, they tried to instill in us Christian values. I was the fourth of 6 kids, and my nearest sibling in age was 3 years apart each way. So I never had that partner in crime sibling, you know, that you always had and you got in all the fun trouble with. So I learned at a very young age, because I also grew up in a neighborhood where even though there were a lot of families and a lot of kids, there was only one other kid my age, and that was a boy a year older than me, and we didn't hang out a whole lot, occasionally to play basketball, but I became very independent because of this at a very young age. And I think my parents kind of, I don't want to say took pity on me, but this allowed me to spend my summer times visiting family and friends and getting to have all these other experiences. And it was on one of these little visits when I was about 8 years old that I accepted Christ into my life. Now at the time though, I was 8 years old, not brought up in the church, and I don't know that I really understood what I was doing. And I probably went home that weekend, after that weekend, and didn't think a whole lot about it until a couple years later when one of my friends asked me to go to church on a Wednesday night service. And they just kept talking about how much fun it was, and I finally agreed. And we had a group of 5 girls my age, and we'd all go together on Wednesdays. We started going to Sunday school, Sunday mornings, and it was great. I fell in love with the church. I would go and sneak my mom's Bible because I didn't have one of my own, so that I had a Bible to take with me to church. And over the next couple of years, the other 4 girls all stopped going. And that left me in middle school with a class of 3. Me and 2 boys a year older than me. However, I was pretty independent. I thought, this is fine. I had nothing to compare it to, and this is the way it was. And I loved going. I couldn't wait every week to just have that feeling come through me again. So this continued on through high school. And when I was a sophomore, I'm sitting in class one day, and this new girl comes in. She's seated next to me, and I start talking to her, find out she'd just moved to town, right around the corner from me, and her dad was hired to be a minister at one of the local churches. And we started hanging out, and it didn't take very long at all for me to realize I found my partner in crime. And we were by each other's side through a lot. We had a lot of adventures together. And so I'm moving into my junior year in high school, and I am got all sorts of big plans. I am captain of the cross-country team. I am this close to setting the school record for the mile and track. I'm talking to the minister about doing a short-term mission tour after I graduate, and I have this best friend that we're just doing everything together, and I am riding high. I am strutting through the school, because I'm it. And that's when my life fell apart. My mom came up to me and said, you need to get a job. I have to give up sports. This is who I am. I'm like, oh, wow. And she made me quit sports right in the middle of track season to take a part-time job working at Ace Hardware. And no offense, Jerry. I'm sorry. I love Ace Hardware. I really do. But we had another girl move to the school, and she started driving a wedge in between me and my best friend, and we didn't talk for a while. And to make matters worse, the worst thing I think of all was that I was out running around town. I grew up in a town where you cruised on Friday and Saturday nights, and you just hung out downtown after the games. It's like all-Americana town. And I'm out on a couple of different occasions, and I saw a couple of the deacons in the church doing things that I'm being led to believe the deacons shouldn't be doing. And it crushed me. I babysat for these people. Their wives were my Sunday school teachers. I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't know who to trust. And I did a very bad thing. I started backing away from the church. And sadly, no one came after me. So, you know, my life went on. And I took a year off after high school to just try and figure out what I wanted to do. And Mandy had actually gotten engaged, and they had broken up. So we were sitting together one night talking, and she says, well, let's go to college. Let's go to college together. And we signed up, we applied, got accepted, and I was working through all my financial aid deal with a Christian college down in Arkansas called Harding University. And summer before we're set to go, and my mom looks at me and says, we can't afford to send you. And I'm like, Mom, it's all worked out. Don't worry, I've got it handled. And she says, no, you can't go. And we had an argument over this, and I said, fine, I'm not gonna go. I'm moving to Indiana. And I left, and I just fell into all the trappings of the world. And Mandy went down to college. She got there, and it had both of our names on our dorm room. And she had her own little struggles, and she has told me the stories of how she had a battle with God out in the field one day, but at the end of that battle, she gave her life to God. And from that time, he just blessed her. And we kind of lost touch over the years, but we'd connect and fall apart and connect and fall apart. And then Facebook came along, and I reconnected with my best friend and my partner in crime. And I'd come down to visit her here. She lived actually in Denver. And I'd come and visit, and I would see how she lived her faith through her life. We'd be driving down the road, and she would just start praying to God, thanking him for letting the earth, on a day like today, the trees being reborn and the flowers bursting, and how amazing it was that he gave us this world to just enjoy. And I was just amazed at this. And I went to church with her, and I thought, this is really good. And I would go home, and I'd think about this, and I'd come back the next year, and I'd visit, and I'm like, this is what's missing in my life. And I went home, and I started watching the sermons online, and I thought, this is really great. And I was dealing with some things in my own personal life at the time, and I was just sitting in my apartment, just typical day, and all of a sudden, I hear this little voice, and it's a loud voice and a soft voice, and it's a tender voice, but it's a strong voice, and there's words, but there's not words, but I had understanding of exactly what it was, and this voice is telling me to let it go and be at peace. And I had a wave wash over me, just this complete weight loss of all these different strains through my life. And I fell on my kitchen floor and sobbed. And at that moment, I stopped and I rededicated my life to Christ. And it was about a month later, I'm talking with Mandy, and I said, you know what? How about if I make my next visit a permanent move? And she's like, that's amazing. Give me 2 more months and I'm calling her up saying, I don't want to wait till next spring. How about if I come down in like 2 months? And she says, that's fantastic. I'm like, you've got a room, right? Because I don't have a job. I don't have a place to stay. I am going on faith. This is what I'm supposed to do. And she says, absolutely. So I moved to North Carolina at the beginning of December. I joined the church. And 2 weeks later, I was standing in a baptismal with the minister and my best friend by my side. And I've discovered that along the way, life's not always easy, but he's blessed me every step of the way as long as I keep following him. And that's pretty much my story, but the amazing part for me being asked to do this is I have been looking and praying for a way to reach out to my family because I don't know where they are. And I can't imagine going through eternity and not having my family there. But how do I reach out to those closest to me? Even Christ had trouble doing that. But this gave me the opportunity. I'm calling my mom and saying, hey Mom, when you were little, did you go to church? She says, oh yeah, we were made to go to church. And she says, but I wasn't baptized till you were little. I didn't know my mom was baptized. And she says, yeah, remember the Bible you used to take? That's the one that Dorothy and Iris gave me the day of my baptism. Then I start remembering. But this allowed me to call my sisters. Hey, remember when Mom and Dad used to send us off to Sunday school? this bus would come and pick us up and drove us 40 miles to another town. And I thought, my parents didn't like us much. But she would start talking about her memories from the church. And this has opened doors for me to talk to my family, to see where they are. And I'm really, really grateful for that. So, and the other thing is I want to tell you, teens, adults are not perfect. Dr. Scott's not perfect. Ricky's not perfect. Your deacons aren't perfect. They're men. They will have issues in their life where they'll fail. And you know what? You can't blame them for that. That's why Christ came here, is because he knows we're all going to fail. But don't stop believing yourselves, okay? It's very important. Don't go through what I went through. Find someone. Reach out to someone. And adults, remember, you never know who's watching or what it could do to your life. Okay? Thank you.